I'm 42, and my life's been a dumpster fire since the divorce papers landed on my kitchen counter 3 months ago. Chicago's skyline faded in my rearview mirror as I peeled out of that suffocating city, my beat-up Honda rattling like it was as done with everything as I was. My ex, Greg, tore my world apart, caught him tangled up with some bartender half his age in our own bed. I didn't scream, didn't cry, just signed the papers and packed a bag. The Pacific Coast was calling my name. No plan, no map, just me and the open road to drown out the wreckage he left behind. Then my phone buzzed, loud and insistent, cutting through the hum of the highway. It was Dylan, my 23-year-old son, his voice crackling through the line like static on a bad radio. "Mom, I need to get out of here. Jess dumped me. Trash my place. Can I come with you?" I gripped the wheel tighter, my head already throbbing. Dylan's always been a tornado. Wild hair, wilder choices, the kind of kid who'd set fire to his own life just to feel the heat. I wanted to say no, to keep this escape mine, but the desperation in his tone hit me like a brick. "Fine," I muttered. "Meet me in Omaha. Don't make me regret this." The drive through Illinois and Iowa was a blur of cornfields and gas stations, the kind of flat, endless stretch that makes you feel like you're running in place. I kept the radio off, letting the silence chew on my thoughts. Greg's smirk, the bartender's laugh, the way I'd trusted him like a fool. By the time I hit Omaha, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky orange like a warning I didn't heed. Dylan was waiting at a truck stop, leaning against a rusted pole, his backpack slung over one shoulder, dark curls spilling over his forehead. He looked like a storm cloud in ripped jeans and a faded Nirvana tee, all restless energy and sharp edges. "Hey, Mom," he said, flashing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Ready to burn rubber?" I sighed, popping the trunk. "Get in. And don't touch my playlist." He tossed his bag in and slid into the passenger seat, sprawling out like he owned the place, legs stretched long, sneakers scuffing the dashboard. I shot him a look, feet off, but he just smirked, already fiddling with his phone. The tension settled in fast, thick as the humid air outside. I'd wanted solitude, not a tag-along, especially not my own kid who'd probably turn this into some chaotic side quest. But here we were, barreling west on I-80, Nebraska's plains swallowing us whole. Hours bled into miles, the road a monotonous ribbon under a sky fading to dusk. Dylan barely spoke, just scrolled through his phone, the glow lighting up his face in flickers. I kept my eyes forward, hands tight on the wheel, trying to outrun the ache in my chest. "You okay over there?" he finally asked, voice low, cutting through the quiet. I glanced at him. His jaw was set, but his eyes were softer, searching. "Fine," I lied, pressing the gas a little harder. "Just tired." "You?" He shrugged, leaning back. "Jess was a mess anyway. Good riddance." I nodded, not pushing it. We'd always been good at dodging the deep stuff, keeping it surface level. Safer that way. By nightfall, my eyes were gritty, the road blurring into a hypnotic stretch of nothing. A sign flickered ahead, Motel 6, 10 miles, and I took the exit without thinking, pulling into a dusty lot in some nowhere town off the interstate. The neon vacancy sign buzzed weak, and the clerk barely looked up as I handed over my card. "One room left," he mumbled, sliding a key across the counter. I froze. "One? You sure?" He nodded, already back to his phone. I turned to Dylan, who was slouched by the door, smirking like he'd won something. "Guess we're bunking up, Mom. Hope you don't snore." The room was a time capsule, faded floral wallpaper, a single bed with a lumpy mattress, and a TV that probably hadn't worked since the 90s. I dropped my bag by the door, arms crossed, already plotting how to make this work. "I'll take the floor," I said, kicking off my sneakers. Dylan flopped onto the bed, stretching out with a groan, his shirt riding up just enough to show a sliver of tanned skin. "Floor's nasty," he said, patting the space beside him. "Come on, we're adults." "It's fine." My stomach flipped, annoyance mostly, but something else flickered, quick and unwelcome. I shook it off, grabbing a pillow. Just keep to your side, okay? He grinned, pulling a small bottle of whiskey from his backpack, the amber liquid catching the dim light. Found this at a gas station. Peace offering. He unscrewed the cap, pouring some into a chipped motel cup and holding it out. I hesitated, then took it, the burn hitting my throat like a reset button. Rough day, I muttered, sinking onto the edge of the bed despite myself. He nodded, taking a swig straight from the bottle. Rough year. We sat there, sipping in silence, the room shrinking around us, the hum of the neon sign outside pulsing like a heartbeat. The whiskey loosened something. Words started spilling out, unguarded. Greg was a jerk, I said, staring at the wall. Caught him red-handed. Didn't even flinch. Dylan's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on the bottle. Should have decked him. I snorted, the sound bitter. Thought about it. Too late now. He shifted closer, the mattress dipping, his knee brushing mine for a second before he pulled back. You're better off, he said, voice quieter now. I nodded, sipping again, the warmth spreading, blurring the edges of everything. Greg, the road, this weird night with my kid. He leaned back, propping himself on an elbow, watching me with that intensity he'd had since he was little. Too perceptive, too much. What about you? I asked, deflecting. Jess, really trash your place? He laughed, sharp and short. Smash my guitar. Total psycho move. I winced. His guitar was his soul, the one thing he'd clung to through every storm. Sorry, kid. He shrugged, but his eyes lingered on me, steady, like he was trying to figure something out. The air felt heavier, the whiskey buzzing in my veins, and I realized how close we were sitting. Too close, maybe. I stood up fast, cup empty, head spinning. Gonna crash. Long day tomorrow. I grabbed a blanket, spreading it on the floor, ignoring his protest. Night, Dylan, I said, turning off the light. His night, Mom, came soft, almost drowned by the hum outside. I lay there, eyes on the ceiling, the room dark but alive with something I couldn't name, his breathing, steady and near, tugging at me in ways I didn't want to unpack. Not tonight. Not ever. We're halfway to the coast, stuck in a dusty Nebraska nowhere, and my son's whiskey-fueled honesty is hitting too close to home. The road's supposed to clear my head, but now it's just me, Dylan, and a vibe I can't shake. Things are getting way too real, way too fast. The motel floor was hard as concrete, the blanket doing nothing to soften it, and I woke up with a crick in my neck and a headache pounding like a drumline. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, sharp and unforgiving, spotlighting the empty whiskey bottle on the nightstand. Dylan was still sprawled across the bed, one arm flung over his face, snoring soft enough to almost be endearing if I wasn't so irritated. I sat up slow, groaning, the taste of last night's bad decisions lingering on my tongue. Rise and shine, lightweight, I muttered, nudging his foot with mine. He stirred, cracking one eye open, a lazy grin spreading across his face. Morning, Mom. You look like roadkill. Feel like it too, I shot back, standing to stretch the ache out of my spine. The room smelled like stale air and regret, and I needed out fresh air, coffee, anything to reset this weird spiral we'd stumbled into. Dylan rolled off the bed, hair a mess, stretching his arms high so his shirt lifted, showing that same sliver of skin I'd clocked last night. I turned away fast, grabbing my bag. Let's move. Coast's not getting closer with us parked here. He nodded, slinging his backpack over his shoulder, still smirking like he knew something I didn't. We hit a diner down the road, a greasy spoon with chipped mugs and a waitress who looked like she'd seen too many sunrises. I downed black coffee like it was a lifeline, the bitterness cutting through the fog in my head. Dylan shoveled pancakes into his mouth, syrup dripping, all casual confidence, while I sat there, wired and frayed. So, he said between bites, you gonna tell me why you're really running? I froze, mug halfway to my lips, his question landing like a punch. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, voice tighter than I meant it to be. He shrugged, leaning back in the booth, arms crossed. Chicago's gone. Greg's gone. You're hauling ass to the coast like it's gonna fix something. What's the deal? I set the mug down hard, the clink loud in the quiet diner. The deal is I'm done talking about it. Eat your food. He didn't flinch, just watched me with those steady eyes, the ones that always saw too much. Fine, he said, but the air shifted, heavier now, like he'd cracked something open I wasn't ready to face. We finished in silence, the hum of the road calling us back. I paid the bill, and we were rolling again, Nebraska's endless flats stretching out like a blank slate I couldn't write on. The highway was a lifeline, the rumble of tires on asphalt drowning out the noise in my head. Dylan fiddled with the radio, landing on some alt-rock station, the bass thumping low. You used to blast the stuff, he said, glancing over. Back when I was a kid, you'd dance in the kitchen. I smirked despite myself, memory flickering, me, younger, freer, twirling with a spatula while he giggled from the counter. Yeah, well, life was simpler then, I said, eyes on the road. He nodded, quiet for once, and I thought maybe we'd dodged the deep end. But then he spoke again, softer. You don't have to keep it all in, you know. I'm not a kid anymore. I gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening. I know that, Dylan. Doesn't mean I'm dumping my mess on you. He shifted, turning to face me, his knee brushing the gear shift. Maybe I want you to. Maybe I'm tired of us pretending everything's fine. My breath caught, his words slicing through the armor I'd built since Greg walked out. We're not pretending, I said, sharper than I meant. We're just moving on. He laughed, low and rough. Moving on? You're running. And I'm crashing your escape because I'm running too. The truth hung there, raw and jagged, and I couldn't dodge it. I pulled off at a rest stop, tires crunching gravel, needing air before this spiraled further. The lot was empty, just us and a wind-whipped picnic table under a scraggly tree. I leaned against the car, arms crossed, while Dylan paced, kicking rocks like he was working something out. Wasn't just a breakup, he said finally, stopping to face me.
She cheated.
Took my rent money, too. I'm a mess, Mom. His voice cracked, and my chest tightened. My kid, hurting, and I hadn't even asked. God, Dylan. Why didn't you say something? I stepped closer, hand hovering like I wasn't sure what to do with it. He shrugged, looking away, the wind tugging at his curls. Didn't want to pile on. You've got enough. I shook my head, frustration bubbling up. You're not piling on. You're my son. He met my eyes then, something fierce flickering there, and for a second, the space between us felt charged, unsteady. Yeah, he said, quieter. I know. We stood there, wind cutting through, the road stretching endless behind us. I wanted to hug him, to fix it, but he was too grown, too close, and it threw me off balance. Let's keep going, I said, turning back to the car. He nodded, following, and we drove on, the silence heavier now, laced with something unspoken. Hours later, the sun sank low, painting the plains gold, and I spotted another motel sign. Vacancy, cheap rates. One more stop, I said, pulling in. The clerk handed over a key, another single room, because of course, and Dylan grinned, tossing his bag inside. Deja vu, huh? The room was a carbon copy of last night. Faded quilt, one bed, stale air. I dropped my stuff, claiming the floor again, but Dylan held up a hand. Nope. My turn down there. I rolled my eyes, too tired to argue, and sank onto the bed, the springs creaking under me. He sprawled out below, close enough I could hear him breathing, steady and calm while my head spun. Night, Mom, he said, voice soft in the dark. Night, I echoed, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the road still vibrating in my bones. Sleep didn't come easy. His presence tugged at me, a pull I couldn't name, and it scared me more than I'd admit. Greg's betrayal had hollowed me out, but this, whatever it was, felt like it could fill the space in ways I wasn't ready for. I turned over, facing the wall, willing the coast to come faster. We're almost at the coast, but the roads twisted us up. My son's closer than ever, and I'm fighting feelings I can't explain. One last stop, one last night, and the Pacific's in sight. Will it save us or break us wide open? Buckle up, this finale's a wild ride. The road out of Nebraska bled into Colorado, the flatlands giving way to jagged peaks that loomed like sentinels against a bruised sky. My hands ached from gripping the wheel, and my head was a tangle of static. Greg's ghost, Dylan's confession, the way this trip kept pulling us into deeper waters. The Honda rattled over the Rockies, the engine whining like it was begging for a break, and I couldn't blame it. Dylan sat shotgun, quieter now, his phone forgotten as he stared out at the mountains. Almost there, he said, voice low, like he felt the weight too. I nodded, eyes fixed ahead. Yeah, almost. We dodged the heavy stuff since the rest stop, sticking to small talk, gas prices, diner food, the weird billboards hawking roadside attractions. But it was there, simmering under every word, a current I couldn't outrun. The coast was my finish line, the place I'd pictured washing away the past, but with Dylan here, it felt less like an escape and more like a reckoning. By late afternoon, the air turned sharp with salt, the Pacific teasing us from beyond the horizon. I pulled off near a coastal town in Oregon, the sign reading Seaside Motel in chipped paint. Last stop, I said, killing the engine. Dylan grinned, stretching as he climbed out. Smell that? Freedom. The motel was weathered, perched on a cliff overlooking crashing waves, the kind of place that looked like it had seen too many storms. The clerk handed me a key, one room again, because fate had a sick sense of humor, and I didn't even argue this time. The room was small, a double bed shoved against a window streaked with salt, the roar of the ocean seeping through the walls. I dropped my bag, claiming the bed without a word, and Dylan flopped onto a chair by the window, kicking his feet up. Fancy upgrade, he said, smirking. No floor for me tonight? I snorted, too tired to bite back. You wish. We grabbed fish and chips from a shack down the road, the greasy paper warm in our hands as we sat on a bench overlooking the water. The sun dipped low, painting the waves gold, and for a minute it felt normal, just a mom and her kid, eating junk food, breathing sea air. Worth the drive? Dylan asked, popping a fry in his mouth. I nodded, the knot in my chest loosening a fraction. Yeah. You. He grinned, leaning back. Better than moping in Chicago. I laughed, the sound surprising me, and for once, the silence that followed wasn't heavy, just easy, like it used to be. Back in the room, the night closed in fast, the ocean's rhythm loud through the cracked window. Dylan pulled a deck of cards from his backpack, some gas station impulse buy, and waved them at me. Rummy? Loser buys breakfast. I raised an eyebrow, sinking onto the bed. You're on. We played sprawled across the mattress, the cards a flimsy shield against the quiet. He won the first round, gloating like a kid, and I shoved his shoulder, laughing despite myself. Cheater, I said, dealing again. He smirked, leaning closer. You're just rusty, Mom. The game stretched on, the pile of cards growing, and the space between us shrank. His knee brushed mine, his laugh filled the room, and I felt it again, that pull, warm and unsteady. I pushed it down, focusing on my hand, but my pulse ticked faster. You're distracted, he said, tossing down a winning run, his eyes catching mine too long. I am not, I lied, gathering the cards quick. He tilted his head, studying me, and the air thickened, the ocean's roar fading behind the thud in my chest. Last night on the road, he said, softer now, shifting so his arm rested near mine. You glad I tagged along? I swallowed, meeting his gaze, those eyes, too sharp, too familiar. Yeah, I said, honest despite myself. Didn't think I would be, but yeah. He smiled, slow and real, and my stomach flipped. Not the whiskey this time, just him, here, now. Good, he said, voice low. Me too. The moment hung there, fragile, and I broke it fast, standing to grab my jacket. Need air, I muttered, heading for the door. Outside, the wind bit hard, salt stinging my face as I leaned against the railing, waves crashing below. I'd made it. Coast in sight, past in the dust, but Dylan's presence clung to me, stirring something I couldn't name. The door creaked behind me, and he stepped out, hands in pockets, hair whipping in the breeze. You okay? He asked, stopping close. I nodded, staring at the water. Just taking it in. He leaned beside me, shoulder brushing mine, and I didn't pull away this time. We did it, he said, voice steady. You and me. Yeah, I echoed, the words heavy. We stood there, the night alive around us, and I felt it, him, me, this thing we'd built on the road. Not wrong, not right, just real. You're not running anymore, he said, quiet, like a fact he'd known all along. I turned, meeting his eyes, and the truth settled in. No, I wasn't. Not from Greg, not from this. Guess not, I said, a half-smile tugging my lips. He nodded, grinning back, and the tension eased, shifting into something solid, something I could carry. Back inside, I kicked off my shoes, claiming my side of the bed. Dylan slid in beside me, the mattress dipping, but it didn't feel crowded just right. Night, Mom, he said, voice soft in the dark. Night, Dylan, I replied, the ocean humming us to sleep. Morning hit with sunlight flooding the room, waves still crashing, and I woke slow, his arm flung across the bed, close but not too close. I smiled, small and real, the coast stretching out beyond us. We packed up quick, coffee from the shack in hand, and hit the road one last time, highway hugging the shore, future wide open. Where to now? He asked, sipping his cup. I shrugged, grinning. Wherever. We'll figure it out. He laughed, the sound light, and I felt it, free, finally, with him beside me. The shadows were gone, and the road was ours. The Honda's tires crunched into Cannon Beach's gravel lot, Oregon's coastline sprawling wild and raw before us, cliffs jagged, waves smashing like they could erase everything I'd left in Chicago. I'd dreamed of this. Just me and the Pacific, Greg's cheating face fading into nothing. But Dylan, my 23-year-old tornado of a son, was still shotgun, his sneakers up on the dash, humming off-key to some tune in his head. Check it. Haystack Rock, he said, pointing at the giant sea stack looming in the surf. Badass, right? I smirked, cutting the engine. Better than your apartment's view. We snagged a room at the Driftwood Inn, 2 beds, finally, because I was done wrestling fate for space. I wanted to crash, let the road's buzz settle, but Dylan's eyes sparked with that restless fire. Beach time, he declared, grabbing his hoodie. Sun's still out. Let's go. My legs screamed no, but his grin said yes, and I caved. You're carrying the chips, I warned, following him out. The sand was cold, wind sharp, and Dylan bolted for the water, yelling like a kid unleashed. Get in here, Mom, he hollered, splashing through the foam. I waded in, icy waves biting my ankles, and splashed back, laughing as he ducked. It was dumb, free, perfect. Sunset turned the sky into a fire show, pink, orange, gold, and we flopped on the beach, chips salty on our fingers. This what you wanted? He asked, staring at the sea. Yeah, I said, sand cool under my palms. You? He grinned, soft.
Hell yeah.
Glad I'm here. My chest warmed, and I nodded. Same. Night fell fast, and the town woke up. Lights, noise, life. Dylan dragged me to the Salty Gull, a dive bar reeking of beer and fish. "One round," he said, sliding me a bottle. "To the coast." I clinked his, the buzz hitting quick. He worked the room, surfers, locals, all drawn to his easy charm, while I sipped, watching him shine. Drinks stacked up, and the bar blurred, his laugh, his shoulder brushing mine, the heat creeping in. "You're different here," he said, voice cutting through the dim lighter. I smirked, tipsy. "Blame the beer." He leaned closer, eyes locked. "Blame me." My pulse jumped, but I laughed it off, shoving him. "Dream on." We stumbled back to the inn, his arm loose over me, the night alive. "Epic," he mumbled, crashing on his bed. I hit mine, the ocean lulling me out. Morning stung, coffee fixed it, and on the boardwalk I knew he was staying and I didn't mind. The road had us now.